All right. Thank you, Jakota. Next, I want to hear from, as we've introduced him, one of our leaders in this community for years. He's an author. He's a founding member of the Black Panther Party. Again, Bobby Seale.
Wow. Nice crowd. I like it. I've been in a lot of colleges and a lot of universities, but this particular event here in this community, Oakland, California, San Francisco, Oakland Bay Area, Alameda County, is very, very important because, as they've already noted to you, when I founded the Black Panther Party, Huey P. Newton and I wrote the 10-point platform and program. I was actually employed by the Department of Human Resources, city government of Oakland at the time. I worked in the North Oakland Neighborhood Service Center, and as a community liaison, and I also supervised all the youth jobs and the summer youth jobs programs there. At another point, when Huey Newton needed extra money, he was in Knight Law School at the time. I hired Huey, so I supervised Huey Newton there as an assistant with me as the North Oakland Neighborhood Service Center for about a year in that period when we created the Black Panther Party. So I was already doing programs before the Black Panther Party ever existed. I mean, the North Oakland neighborhood, the North Richmond tutorial program, I was part of the creation and the development of that whole program. You can go online and find a proclamation that the city government of Richmond gave me for creating the first youth jobs program in North Richmond, California, 1964. So I'm saying this was my background. Prior to that, I mean, historically, the counterintelligence program, Ronald Reagan, the governor, they called me a hoodlum when I first led a delegation to the California State Legislature. But I resented that, very much so, because I was nobody's hoodlum. I mean, prior to even getting into the whole civil human rights protest movement, I was at Kaiser Aerospace and Electronics out on Doolittle Drive over in San Leandro, just outside of Oakland. And there, I worked in the engineering department. I mean, they called me a hoodlum, but I was doing electromagnetic field black light non-destruct testing for all engine frames with the Gemini missile program. Xylol non-destruct testing for all 3 stages of exhaust housing with the Gemini missile program. So, this is the killer. You see what I'm getting at? When we created the Black Panther Party, Huey was 2 years into law school. And we were students, and we were avid readers, and we researched. But me, I love putting programs together. And it came from my background. My father was a master carpenter and builder. My grandpa, on my father's side, was a master carpenter and builder. There's a little town east of Jasper, Texas. Jasper, Texas is where Bird was drugged to death some 10, 11 years ago. Bird, the young black man, was drugged to death by racists, was 4th cousin to my family because both my mother and father were born in Jasper, Texas, just this side of the Louisiana border. But nearer to the Louisiana border is a town called Weirgate, Texas. And that's where my grandpa was the main contractor for building over 1,000 homes in that community, connected with some oil shale development that was going on at the time. So I'm trying to show you my background, and I don't like and resent it to this day, the politicians, the racists, and the others, and all of the whoever's that want to say we were hoodlums, we were thugs, etc. Now, me and my director-producer, he's here with me, former Black Panther Party member also, but, graduated at UCLA as a master's degree as a filmmaker. We're putting a film together. And this film is about my life story, but my life story is really the bulk of this film about my organization, the Black Panther Party. And I start this film off, we were writing the screenplay, I start this film off in the Great Chicago 7 conspiracy trial. A trial, if you know anything about the history, and some of the young folks need to still know, that they put me into, the power structure charge, falsely charged me and wrongfully charged me with conspiracy to try to incite riots, they say, at the 1968 Democratic Convention. But this is where I start this film. And it's about them, the power structure, at that time, moving to destroy, my organization, the Black Panther Party. In 1968, November, Richard M. Nixon was elected to office. A week later, after he was elected in November, he had not been sworn in yet, he had a meeting with J. Edgar Hoover. In the first week of December, before Nixon was even sworn in, J. Edgar Hoover was on the national television saying that the Black Panther Party was a threat to the internal security of America. It would be 4 months later that J. Edgar Hoover is back on television, saying the Black Panther Party's free breakfast for children program is a threat to the internal security of America. Now, what I'm trying to show you here is that here is a right-wing racist power structure, the head law enforcement framework of the United States of America and around the world, setting up an operation to attack us, to destroy us, etc. This is what they're doing. Immediately after J. Edgar Hoover said in December 1968 that we was a threat to the security of America, what was it, 2 weeks later, I had a retreat of party members to come up, leadership people out of each chapter and branch to come in. The main thing I dealt with at that retreat was telling party members, Elmer Geronimo Pratt and others, I want all Black Panther Party offices across the country. By this time, we had 49 chapters and branches throughout the United States of America by this time, 1968. You have to imagine, in the early part of 1968, before Dr. Martin Luther King was killed, we only had 400 members up and down the West Coast, from Seale to San Diego. That's all we had. But when they killed and murdered Dr. Martin Luther King, young brothers and sisters and people, especially when exams was over, flooded to our organization. All across the country, I mean, Fred Hampton and Bobby Rush, now Congressman Bobby Rush, flew on a plane to come out to talk to us about starting the Chicago chapter, Philadelphia, etc. So by the end of the year, we had 5,000 members in 49 chapters and branches throughout the United States of America, complete with every chapter having a free breakfast for children program. Every chapter also having a free sickle cell anemia testing program. I mean, these are the programs. It is the breakfast programs, it is the free community medical health care clinics, it is the sickle cell anemia testing programs. Those became the most popular programs. But those young brothers and sisters, with my instruction, because I went to every chapter and every branch to teach Black Panther Party members the fine particulars and the methodology of effective grassroots community organizing. This is what I taught them, the very demographics, the methodology of setting up and knowing and understanding how to get to the voting precincts, finding out and registering people to vote, because it's about unifying the people electorally, I was telling them, to get that unity going on in our community on a broad, profound scale. Because to me and Huey, before the party was started, our analysis was basically plain and simple and to the point. We understood institutionalized racism in its most profound sense. But the crux of it were the laws. And who makes the laws? Legislative bodies, whether they're city council legislative bodies, county seat supervisorial legislative bodies, state legislation, federal, they make laws, they make rules. And when you read Leon Higginbotham, if you know who Leon Higginbotham is a circuit court justice out of the 3rd Circuit Court District in Philadelphia. but he was a very great, prolific writer about our civil rights and human rights. And he's a circuit court justice. The last book he wrote was Shadows of Freedom. And in Shadows of Freedom, he details for you a chronology from the beginning of this country right on up to the present. When he finished writing this book here 20 years ago, I mean, he details for you the chronology of how laws was constructed all across this country based on two factors, two interconnected, interrelated factors. The precept of white supremacy and the precept of black inferiority. This is the basis of how laws are structured throughout the United States, and this is where Huey P. Newton and I were coming just before we even created the Black Panther Party. That if Rosa Parks is forced to move to the back of the bus, we're talking about a legislative law that said so. There were thousands of these kind of discriminatory laws of all kinds, etc. So it's those racist laws that have to be changed. When we started in the 1960s, not only myself, SNCC, I mean, I have a lot of praise for everything at SCLC and Dr. King and others, whoever, etc. But in those mid-60s, early 60s, mid-60s, there were less, listen to me, brothers and sisters, there were less than 50 duly elected African-American or people of color even elected to political office throughout the whole of the United States of America. Well, me, I love math, you know what I mean? And I sit down and proceeded to count all the counties in every state throughout the United States of America. Took a glance and a look at all the city council seats that you could be elected to, etc. And I came up with more than 500,000 political seats that people could be elected to throughout the United States of America. And in that period, we were less than 50. We were less than 50 in terms of people of color in the African American community. We were less than that in the middle of the 60s. And that 60s protest movement that we in the Black Panther Party was part and parcel of, interconnected with, worked with, had great coalition politics, because we crossed every ethnic line, every whatever line, every organizational line. We worked with everybody. We worked with SCLC and the Poor People's March. Before Dr. King was killed, Dr. Reverend Ralph Abernathy called me personally. He says, Mr. Seale, I'm calling you on behalf of Dr. King because he wants to know, will your organization be able to participate with us, one, on the Poor People's March, and further, to participate on a broader round table. The broad round table he wanted would involve 100, maybe 200 different organizational groups. And we wanted to work together on a consistent basis so we can begin to outline and hammer out a practical economic goal objective for African American people and people of color in the United States of America. I says, yes, Dr. Abernathy. Yes, we would be happy and glad to do that. And we will be part of that. I'm just saying, that power structure killed and murdered Dr. King, I'm telling you, and moved at the end of that year to kill us because we emerged as a profound political revolutionary, but yet political revolutionary standing up for constitutional, democratic, civil, human rights. This is what we were about in my context. This is where we came from. And we meant it. And we told them, you come and you're shooting at us, we're going to defend ourselves because we're shooting back, I'm sorry. We're not going to let you lynch and murder us and kill us without us defending ourselves. But I'm just saying, I could be on, going here for a long time. Wait a minute, listen to me. I want you to support me in the producing of my film. I created my own company for this film so we get the whole story right. It's going to be an independent film production, but it's going to be a major top flight film production. So when we get through here, you come over to my table and I'll talk to you some more. Power to the people, and let's get on with the program.
I want to thank Brother Seale. All right.